Coming up, the Raiders are in Buffalo looking to go 2-0. Jimmy Garoppolo will lead the charge, but they'll need Josh Jacobs to ante up against a reeling Bills team. Can Josh Allen bounce back, or will Nate Hobbs and the Raiders D keep the party going? It's all next on the Silver and Black Show, starting right now. There they are. We have a big show today because NFL media Cynthia Frelund and Bucky Brooks are stopping by. They're going to help us break down Sunday's matchup in Buffalo. Welcome into the Silver and Black Show, everybody. I'm Amber Theoharis. The Raiders are 1-0, and for Raider Nation, that feels pretty good, even if it was an ugly win, which is something that doesn't even exist. A win is a win. The NFL, there is no pretty wins in the NFL, and the ability to gut out a one-score game is actually a thing of beauty. Think about this. Last year, the Raiders lost 4 of their first 5 games by a total of 14 points. Now, being on the wrong side of those close games was the difference between a 6-win and a 10-win season. That's a wild card berth. Sure, they need to clean up penalties and red zone turnovers, but they held a division opponent to just 3 points in the second half last week. That's something to build on. But the Bills are going to be tough. They lost ugly to the Jets on Monday night, and Josh Allen needs to right the ship. Still, this Sunday is a chance to go 2-0, and that unblemished record sure would look pretty no matter how the game is won. And to talk more about the Raiders' chances of that happening, let's welcome in my good friend, NFL media's analytics expert, Cynthia Frelund. Hey, Cynthia, it's good to see your face. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here, and congrats to the 1-0 Raiders. I'm with you. No such thing as an ugly win. There's only wins or losses. Doesn't matter.
That's right. They are top of the AFC West as it stands right now. And you're a mathematician at heart. You predicted that the Raiders would have 6.4 wins with a ceiling of 8.9 wins. This is on NFL media. How do you come to those estimates? And has that 6.4 win estimate now gone up because you saw them go 1-0?
Absolutely. The number goes up every single week that you get a win because it goes from a percentage chance. Let's say, like, even if every game were 50-50, that 0.5 would be added up. So you'd get to 8.5, right? So then once you get a 1, that would immediately bring it to 9. So point being is that every time you get a win, it goes from a fractional number. Even if you're the best team in the league, the proverbial Super Bowl champs, if you want to go with the Chiefs again, they got a 0, right? Instead of a 1 against the Lions in week 1. So when you're looking at probabilities and win probabilities, part of the reason that the Raiders number was so low was because my models really factor in secondary play and offensive line play. And those were both some questions coming into the season. Also, little like asterisks here, we didn't exactly know about Josh Jacobs at the time when I had to deliver those win probabilities.
That's a big question mark. Yeah, I get it.
So, I can only be given the information that I had at the time. And when that was written, then that was a big question mark. And that's one of your best players on this squad. So when you're maybe without your best player, that would influence win totals completely.
You and I were chatting about this Broncos win, and the number one thing you said you noticed was the Raiders' lack of possessions, yet their ability to win the game. What does that tell you about this team?
Well, in this case, the opportunity to, exploit the talents of Jakobi Meyers, that was really a huge difference maker that I don't think the Broncos secondary, which is a very good secondary, was necessarily ready for. The fact that this game was like 1980 style, like we only have 6 possessions, like really crazy. It was strange, like a very strange number. In fact, when you look at the mathematical implications of like what we learned from both teams, we actually didn't learn very much, all things considered, because you learn more when you have more rolls of the dice, and there just weren't very many rolls of the dice. So truly it was being efficient and finding an edge here. In this case, in this game, it was Jakobi Meyers that really made the difference and solidified. You can't always count on that extra possession. It's a really good reminder that in this sport, in this game, and you were talking about one possession games when we were coming into this program, and there last year we had the most one possession games in the NFL so far, which just means parity is working. So if you dial back to a macro level, it's kind of a good thing for football as a whole. Maybe not if you're on the wrong side of those, but you got to remember, you may not always have that next possession.
Let's talk about Jakobi Meyers. This offseason, you did a great piece for NFL Media where you went around the league, and for each team, you listed an undervalued player. And for Jakobi Meyers, we haven't even seen him in a Raiders uniform. When you did this piece, you put him as the most undervalued player on the team. You were right, based on what we saw in week one. I think there's a lot of value right now, but he's currently in concussion protocol. We don't know if he's going to be out there. But first, I want to know, how did you come up with him as the most undervalued player on the Raiders?
Well, part of what you do when you create models like this is you look for like doppelgangers or similar situations that you can help use and extrapolate and interpolate information. So what you're doing is you're saying, I saw the routes that he ran for the Patriots, whether or not they resulted in him being the subject of a target or not. I saw the pristine routes he ran. I saw what he was asked to do and how well he did it, whether or not the other piece of the offense last year for the Patriots were doing that. And in fact, these are things that go really well, especially with an offensive coordinator and an offensive-minded head coach that really take those types of principles and it can implement them right away. So when I watched, and I felt pretty good about this as when I saw him in training camp when I was out there visiting, because he looked sharp. Like the crisp, pristine routes in training camp were, I was like, oh, maybe my prediction looked right. Like I'm not gonna I'm not gonna hurt my arm patting myself on the back here yet, but I did appreciate that, those types of things when they match, it's great. When the math is mathing, it's excellent. When the math isn't mathing, not so great for me.
Yeah, showing that you are usually right and one of the best in the business with that prediction there. I wanted to ask you about Hunter Renfrow. Does his value go up now this week? I know you've spoken about what his value could be to this team in the past.
The problem in this specific week is where the Bills are strongest, which is the spine of their defense. They got both of their starting safeties that last year didn't play, and Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer played for part of the year, but not most of the year. Both of those guys are back, and they're pretty elite as far as safety duos go. There are some questions. Linebacker Tremaine Edmonds is now a Bear, so the linebacker core is a little bit different, but they also got a more healthy Tre'Davious White back. So the secondary and the pass catchers in general, tricks aren't going to be the types of things that get them. And the area of the field that Hunter Renfrow is the most impactful in is kind of an area of strength for the Bills. So I'm looking for one-on-one matchups with, that other guy who's pretty good at catching balls, but, ultimately trying to match up against perhaps the second corner, someone that's, we've seen Christian Benford, who actually was a 6th round draft pick 2 seasons ago. And then, Dane Jackson, who has earned a starting role, but that's where they're most vulnerable, not necessarily in the middle.
All right, one last question. Josh Allen is coming into this game. We all saw him on Monday Night Football. He turns the ball over 4 times. And sometimes in the national media, you'll hear the disrespect. You'll hear them say, this is going to be a get-right game against the Raiders, which is always a dangerous thing to say. And I ask you, what would support that theory, considering this is a pattern for Josh Allen going back to last season?
Well, there's 2 things that changed last season from this season for me with this Bills team. One, they addressed the guard position. Both guards, they drafted a guard, they brought a guard in free agency. So now your ability to run the ball is probably increased from last season. So perhaps Ken Dorsey should take a little bit of the credit for some of the turnovers, because calling a more conservative game plan potentially would have been better, especially in the rain and with emotions running like sky high, because nobody, no Bill, no Jet, no person watching, no sports fan wanted anything like that to happen to Aaron Rodgers. So let's be clear, some of it falls on the game plan. So the guard positions are different. Those tackles we saw last week, Spencer Brown had a rough night against John Franklin Myers. So I don't necessarily, those guards are going to have their Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown are going to have their hands full with Max Crosby with all the pressure, but the interior play could help get them to stay a little bit more honest with downs and distances and not get themselves into 3rd and 25 or 3rd and 40 or whatever it was before. So that's the one difference. And then the second one, they now can use 12 personnel. Last year they ran 12 personnel, just 2 tight ends at the lowest rate in the National Football League. And now they have the opportunity to bring in, they drafted Dalton Kincaid in the 1st round, and now have the opportunity to use both he and Dawson Knox at the same time. And perhaps 12 personnel, a more heavy lineup, could help protect against some of that pressure. So those are differences that will manifest throughout the season. Obviously, Monday night was a really it was a tough night to watch just in general, but I think those two differences could be potential. Like, I don't think it's just like, oh, they're madder this weekend, right? Like, oh, they're gonna be mad. So, well, I don't think the Raiders appreciate disrespect either, right? So it's like, oh, they're gonna be mad too. Who's gonna be more mad? Like, it's ridiculous. So
Cynthia Frelund, it's always so fun to talk to you. Thanks so much for stopping by, and please come back later in the season.
anytime.
All right, still to come on the Silver and Black Show, our good friend Bucky Brooks stops by. He's going to talk Raiders rookies and much more coming up right here on the Silver and Black Show. The Silver and Black Show is brought to you by Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Allegiant, the official airline of the Las Vegas Raiders. Low fares, nonstop flights. Book now only at Allegiant.com. 1800, the best taste in tequila and official partner of the Raiders. Welcome back to the Silver and Black Show. The Raiders have an opportunity to go into Highmark Stadium and upset a Bills team who struggled in Week 1. NFL Media's Bucky Brooks is here to talk about the matchup. And Bucky, it's good to see you. I know you're a defensive guy, so I got to start with that. The Raiders need to find a way to get takeaways. They were not good at it last year, last in the league. Do they have a big opportunity this weekend to take advantage of Josh Allen's bad decision-making we've seen going back to last year?
Absolutely. They have a chance to take advantage of it. And the way that you have to take advantage of it is, one, you got to make him speed up his clock. And the way that you make him speed up his clock is you have to have pressure. Pressure at the point of attack, pressure against the pass rush, bodies around him to make him feel like he has to play in the midst of chaos. The other thing that you have to have, if you're the Raiders, this is one where the secondary may need to do some extra ball drills. He is going to give the Raiders plenty of opportunities to take the ball away. They have to catch him when they get those opportunities. But turnovers are everything in the National Football League. And against the Buffalo Bills, man, being able to get one or two takeaways could be the difference in whether you win or lose.
Yeah, big momentum changer. On Monday night, we saw the Jets offense, out of necessity pretty much, run all over the Bills, 172 yards on the ground. Are you expecting Josh Jacobs to maybe have a big game on Sunday?
Well, absolutely, because if you put that on tape, you have to copy it. You have to at least explore and see if they fix their issues. You give up 172 yards on the ground, that is a major issue. And so for Josh McDaniels, when you have a guy who has been the leading rusher in the league in Josh Jacobs, you absolutely want to feed him early to see if they've solved some of those problems. I would expect a heavy dose of the run game. I would expect them to continue to probe that to see if they can kind of find a way to unlock the code. Because if they can run the ball, then it allows them to create big play opportunities in the passing game. Devontae Edwards, Jacoby Myers, being able to throw off play action because the Bills have to drop extra defenders in the box to take care of the running game.
Hey, it was fun to see Josh Jacobs out there blocking. He said one of the reasons he was doing it was because he saw Jimmy G out there running for first downs and made him excited. It definitely won over Jimmy G's teammates to see those kind of plays. What are you expecting out of Garoppolo in Week 2 against the Bills?
More of the same. The one thing that everyone would tell you about Jimmy Garoppolo, his best traits are his managerial skills and the swag that he brings and the confidence that he infuses with the offense. It's not always pretty. You may get a mistake or two throughout the game, but what everyone does is they fall in line because everyone believes in his ability to find a way to get it done in the end. His toughness, his grit, his swagger, those things are infectious. And so I would expect to see Josh McDaniels continue to trust him because that trust that he has in the veteran quarterback. They may push the envelope a little bit. They may throw the ball a little more to make sure that the playmakers on the outside get plenty of opportunities. But at the end of the day, they know Jimmy Garoppolo would do whatever is necessary to win, whether that's throw it 40 times or hand the ball off and maybe throw it fewer than 20 times. He doesn't care. The only thing he cares about is W's. And it's nice to have a quarterback that is like that because that allows the coaching staff to do whatever is necessary to get a win.
All right, let's go back to the defense for a minute and go back to that Monday Night Football game with the Jets and the Bills. Sauce Gardner, Jordan Whitehead, they had huge games. They knew what was coming. They knew Stephon Diggs was one of the only targets that Josh Allen was going to target. And they had 3 picks in that game. Yet still, Stephon Diggs had a 100-yard game. He had a touchdown. How does this Raiders secondary contain Stephon Diggs?
You know, I don't know if you can necessarily contain Stephon Diggs, but what you can do is limit everybody else. So even in looking in that game, Stephon Diggs had 100 yards, but the Bills turned the ball over and no one else really got loose. This could be a game where if you're Patrick Graham, you're saying he is going to get his. Guys, let's make him compete to get his, but let's make sure no one else gets loose. Let's make sure we pay close attention to the supporting cast, Don't allow someone that is an unheralded playmaker to become a major playmaker. Let's say, hey, Stephon Diggs may get his, but we're gonna make sure nobody else does it. And let's see if the Buffalo Bills can win with a one-dimensional attack where all the balls hit to number 14.
Yeah, you can't let Gabe Davis or a rookie Dalton Kincaid beat you. If they're going to beat you, it's going to have to be Stephon Diggs. Hey, Bucky, so good talking to you. Stick around because I want to talk to you about some of the rookies on our team, on the Raiders. I want to get your take on that in just a bit. All right, coming up next, he had a huge defensive performance against the Broncos. Can he keep it going against Josh Allen in the Bills? Raiders corner Nate Hobbs joins us next.
Great running back, and obviously weapons on the outside with DA and Myers, whether if he's gonna play or not.
Me and Garoppolo had a lot of games against each other when he was with the 49ers. He efficient with the short passes. He's a good quarterback. He knows his offense.
Obviously, he's been with Josh for some time when they were in New England together there, so they have a history. And I thought their offense really played well, executed well, and it'll be a big challenge for us.
As far as Peters goes, he's a longtime vet in this league. He's very savvy, route recognition, tends to jump some routes and has some success doing that. So we got to be aware of where he's at and who he's on, because he can impact the game.
They got some weapons in a good team, so they're going to come in, they're going to test us. It's going to be a big challenge for us.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Show. He led the Raiders in total tackles with 12 in Week 1, and now he's on the East Coast getting ready to take on the Buffalo Bills. And for our next guest, we say hello to Raiders corner Nate Hobbs. Nate, good to see you out there in West Virginia. I know last year you missed some time because of injury, and this year you just look re-energized. How is this year different for you, especially in year 2 of Patrick Graham's defense?
Honestly, the way it started off wasn't really different than last year because I played in the slot. Well, I played corner and slot last year. I played outside and inside. Last week I just played inside, but I just felt great out there. I felt comfortable in the defense. I was able to see everything and go do what I do best, and that's be around the ball and go as I see. So.
You talk about playing inside versus playing outside, and the addition of free agents like Marcus Peters coming, and then also at safety Marcus Epps as well. It just felt like this secondary was, I've used the word recalibrated from last year, and that, what I mean by that is you're allowed to go inside. Do you feel like that puts you in a better position for success and to make big plays? Are you more comfortable?
I feel like anywhere I get reps at, I'm comfortable, you know what I'm saying, inside or outside. But I do feel like I got that natural, instinctive nature inside. So wherever I have to go, you know what I'm saying, to help the team, I feel I'm adequate to do so.
Well, you know what was exciting about the game against the Broncos in the second half? The defense only gave up 3 points to the Broncos. But I know the next step for this defense is to get some takeaways. I know you'll be looking for that against the Buffalo Bills. How do you take advantage of Josh Allen's tendencies to take risks with the ball?
Yeah, he definitely, great player, you know what I'm saying, one of the best in the league. But he'll definitely, throw it out there and, if you see it, you got to go get it. So if he does give us that chance, we plan on capitalizing. That's what we have to do. We have to capitalize. That's how it's a big part of winning games. And most of the time when you do win that turnover margin, your team ends up winning the game. So we go, we hunting out there. We on a whole new got a whole new energy this year, like you said, a whole nother vibe to us. So we out there hunting. So we get the ball in our hands and we know that's good.
Yeah, we definitely saw that swag in the fourth quarter of last week's game. We know who Josh Allen's looking for, right? He's looking for Stephon Diggs. It's the receiver that Patrick Graham, everyone circles, every defensive coordinator circles. Against the Jets, Jordan Whitehead had a huge game. Sauce Gardner made big plays, and yet Diggs still had a 100-yard game. What do you take away from watching that Jets film, seeing the matchup with Stephon Diggs?
You just got to know where he is at all times. He'd be at at the 2 inside. He'll be at the number 3. He could be at 1. You know, they're going to feature him. He's a big part of their offense. So, and when they get the ball in his hands, usually good things happen. So we just got to identify him and do a good job of knowing where he is at all times and, you know, containing him. So. Yeah.
Nate, congratulations on such a strong start to the season. Can't wait to see you out there in Buffalo on Sunday.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, still to come on the Silver and Black Show, Bucky Brooks is back. The former NFL scout gives his take on the Raiders rookies. Stick with us. The Silver and Black Show has been brought to you by Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Allegiant, the official airline of the Las Vegas Raiders. Low fares, non-stop flights. Book now only at Allegiant.com. Chevron with Techron gives you unbeatable cleaning and mileage. Chevron, together ahead. Welcome back. The Raiders look to go 2-0 this weekend in Buffalo, and if they're going to beat the Bills, they could use some big plays from their rookies. NFL Media's Bucky Brooks is back with us. He was sticking around just to talk about these rookies because they're excited. And let's start with the defensive back rookie. I know, Bucky, I know that Jacorian Bennett, a lot of people are buzzing about the Raiders' 4th rounder. What did you see from him? What type of learning curve should we expect?
Well, you're going to see a long learning curve in terms of the only way that you can become a really good player is you have to have experience. And he'll learn from the ups and downs that he encountered, not only in the preseason, but in that first game. And so this is someone who is tall and athletic enough to really go toe-to-toe with some of the elite playmakers on the perimeter. And we saw him tackle well. He was in space. He will continue to get closer to making plays as he continues to have more experience. Before a debut, pretty solid being on the perimeter.
How about the number 7 overall pick, Tyree Wilson? He played 50% of the snaps against the Broncos. That's probably a little bit more than Patrick Graham had expected, but then the Chandler Jones thing happened, and he had to step up. Where would you say he is right now, and what is his potential?
He's still learning. And the great thing about Tyree Wilson is he has all the physical tools and traits that you look for at the position. He's a high motor player. He has heavy hands. He's a violent striker at the line of scrimmage. It's just a matter of learning that in the pros, you have to have maybe more in your toolbox to be able to win successfully off the edge. The great thing is he's going to get plenty of one-on-one opportunities opposite Max Crosby. Max Crosby was a one-man show in the opener. So you know all week it's all been about the Buffalo Bills trying to figure out how do we contain him. That is going to create more opportunities for Wilson. Wilson has to take advantage of those opportunities, and he will do so as he begins to learn how people will block him at the point of attack. It's one of those things that young guys have growing pains. We have to be patient as he goes through those growing pains with the Raiders.
All right, Bucky, we always ask our guests for a bold prediction for Sunday. Give me one of yours.
Okay, so we saw the Buffalo Bills have struggles on the ground. I'm going to say that they have a tough time containing Josh Jacobs as a runner and receiver. 150-plus scrimmage yards for Josh Jacobs. He's going to find his stride. Remember, he showed it late in training camp. He will begin to get his legs back. I expect him to have a big game against the Buffalo Bills.
Ooh, I like that one. 150-plus. I think Raider Nation is a big fan of yours. They already were a big fan of yours. All right, Bucky Brooks, thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Check Bucky Brooks' work out over on NFL.com. That'll do it for us here on the Silver and Black Show. Kickoff 1 p.m. from Highmark Stadium. Catch us right here after the game. We'll be here for Raiders game day. Have a great weekend, everybody.